Good morning, everyone. So we are live now. Let's just wait a few minutes before we kick it off, and this way we'll let people join in. For those of you who are new, welcome. I'm Victoria Guerrero. I'm the Director of Events here in Alignable. And typically what we ask folks is to take a little bit of time and put your information on the chat, who you are, maybe the name of your business if you'd like folks to know, and where you're located. We're always interested in seeing where in the nation are people joining from. So please take a moment to do that. And we will kick off this session in about a minute. Thank you, everyone. Excellent. Lori from Jupiter, Florida. Welcome, Lori. I'm in Florida too. I'm down here in Miami, a little bit further south. Michael Price, thank you for joining. Excellent. Christy from Virginia. Lovely. Randy from Utah. Welcome, guys. Dr. Sarita, who's a chiropractor. I'm a big believer in chiropractors. Dr. Sarita, thank you for joining from Indianapolis. And we have Najim from Georgia. Excellent. Well, we still have folks joining. We have about 100 folks or so joining. So it is the top of the hour. So let's formally kick this off today, shall we? So welcome again to everyone. Thank you for joining our event today. Now, we do know that small businesses are struggling. First we had the pandemic, and just as we were getting through that pandemic, then, now we have inflation. So it's been a little bit difficult for some businesses to really do that turnaround and get back on their feet. And this is why Alignable is here, bringing you these educational series to kind of give you best practices and resources that you can utilize to help get your business back on track for this year and following years. So today we're going to be speaking with Aniel Luna, who is a PTAC procurement advisor, and he'll be teaching us a little bit more about what PTAC does. He's actually located in the LaGuardia PTAC office, and we're going to be talking about the capability statements. So how do you brag about your business to the federal government? Well, you can do it through your capability statement. So we're going to learn a little bit more about how to do that, what's the purpose, when to use it. We have a really good presentation here ready for you. For those that are also asking, not to worry, we are going to have about 20 minutes at the end where Ania will answer your questions. So make sure to use the Q&A box to put your questions in there, because I'm just going to read the questions straight from that box for Ania to answer towards the end. Also, I know many have always asked, do we get a recording? The answer is yes. You will be getting a recording of the session. It will be sent to the email that you registered for, so be on the lookout for that. You will also get in that email a copy of all of the links that we will be putting in the chat. So no worries about having to jot things down. We will always send that to you. Excellent. Now, if we do not get a chance to respond to your question, and you do want to stay in contact with me in the contracting group or with LaGuardia PTAC in their group, you can always find their group on Alignable. And I'll be putting the links to the groups on the chat in a little bit. So you can always join. It's free of charge, and you can stay in contact with me on the contracting group side or with PTAC LaGuardia if you're in the LaGuardia, Westchester County, or in the, Westchester County, New York City, or Long Island counties. LaGuardia PTAC is the one that services those areas. So enough said, I think we can get started. So today we have Aniel Luna. As mentioned, he is PTAC LaGuardia's procurement counselor. Aniel, if you can please tell us a little bit about PTAC, what you guys do, how small businesses can utilize you. We are all eager to learn.
Yes. All right. Thank you for the amazing introduction, Victoria. I guess let me share screen. Let me share my screen. Let's see. Put this. Okay.
So Aniel, while you do that, I just want to let folks know that our webinar is nationwide. The information that's going to be provided here is information that all small businesses can utilize in the nation. This is for the federal government. And our presenters are located in LaGuardia, New York. So even though they are our expert speakers, they know federal government inside and out. So please remember to utilize your Q&A box to put your questions so we can answer those questions at the end. Back to you, Anil.
Perfect. So we are all good with the screen share? Looks good.
Looks
All right,
perfect.
perfect. So yeah, so thank you for the introduction, Victoria. As Victoria said, my name is Anil Luna, and I'm a procurement counselor here at LaGuardia PTech. We're located in Long Island City, New York. And I'll just go through a brief overview of our organization, and then we'll dive into capability statements from there.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right. So let's see. All right. So all right. So and then just few housekeeping items before I forget. I'll just reiterate questions. We're going to do those at the end of the presentation. I'm going to provide a quick overview of our organization right now. So a bit about our team is that we specialize in assisting small businesses to market their goods and services to the government. We cover all government agencies in New York City, New York State, and the federal government level. Our program is focused on efficiently helping businesses navigate the process for government contracting, no matter where you are in terms of past performance or business experience. And we offer procurement assistance in helping businesses get certified with New York City, New York State, and the federal government when it comes to any women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned small businesses. Some of the services that we provide, I have listed here on this slide. We provide one-on-one counseling where we sit down with you to understand your business in order to build a plan of action that makes sense and will best help you navigate the government contracting sector based on your past performance. Additionally, we also review RFPs, GSA schedules, assist clients in conducting market research, provide access to government contract opportunities through our bid match software, and provide guidance with any SBIR, STTR grants, and cyber and CMCC compliance for the federal level. And then here at LaGuardia Business Services, our team PTech, we're one of the teams, one of the 5 teams at the business services, and some of our other partners here are the Small Business Development Center, also known as SBDC, who you can go to for any assistance in terms of creating a business plan, seeking sources of funding, and developing marketing plans. We also have the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, which is an executive training program with Goldman Sachs, which has been around for about a decade. We also have the Small Business Transportation Research Center, who helps businesses prepare and compete for transportation-related contracts at the federal, state, and local levels. And then we also have New York Designs, which is a program for companies looking to pursue design and technology. But for more info on these services, you can also access the link laguardia.edu/business services. And last but not least, we also host our own workshops as well throughout the year to provide our clients with the skill sets and knowledge base that they need in order to succeed in the government contracting sector. And here you can check out those workshops, which are also free via the eCenter link shown on the slide here. All right. So with that said, I guess I'll just dive into the capability statements.
Yep. Anil, if I may, just for folks who are wondering, they're like, hey, all of this is LaGuardia. I just want folks to know that there's PTech centers all across the US. So if you're not in the LaGuardia area, remember that's Westchester County, that is Long Island, that's Greater New York County. If you're not in there, I welcome you to join the government contracting group and just let me know where you're located and I'll connect you with the PTech office in your area. And we can also possibly help you with your contracting questions here in the contracting group. If you are in the New York LaGuardia area, remember there is a link on the chat that you can also join the PTech group there. So just wanted to let everybody know there's PTechs all around the nation. So we didn't forget the rest of the nation. We just have New York with us today. So thank you so much for that, Aniel. All right.
That's correct. Thank you for adding that in, Victoria.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess let's dive into the capability statement. So today I just it's gonna be pretty straightforward. A few slides here about capability statements. I'm gonna try to cover some of the main questions that I often get from clients, and then I'll provide you guys with really an overview and understanding of what capability statements is, what's the purpose of it, and when you will need it within the government contracting sector. So one of the main questions that I always get is, what is a capability statement? Essentially, a capability statement is like a business resume. Preferably, is usually 1 page long. It's a living document, so you're going to constantly be updating this document as you go, as you start adding more contracts or more past performance. So just like a regular resume that you use to apply for a job, the more experience you have, the more you're gonna be updating it and changing it and stuff like that. And some of the things that it includes, which I will cover more in depth in a few slides, it includes really your business competencies, and provides an overview of your professional qualifications. To let the reader, or which is usually agency representative or a contracting officer, um, get an understanding of who you are and what you're capable of doing, right? So this is where you really brag about your business through this capability statement. So and then it also serves as a marketing tool, like a business card, or a resume, where you just market your products or your services to the government directly on that document. Another question that I usually get is, what is the purpose of a capability statement, right? So within the government sector, the capability statement has become like more and more popular over the years, and more common to be used. And it just provides the decision makers, which are the contracting officers. For those who don't know, the contracting officers are the ones that review these RFPs, and decide who wins the contracts and stuff like that. And for the decision makers, this capability statement provides an overview of the information that they're looking for. So if they want to look for a specific, if they want to look for a specific company that has a certain amount of years and experience, or has done a specific type of work, they will be able to see that on your capability statement. Additionally, this document also provides you with an opportunity to set yourself apart from your competitors. We're going to talk a bit about branding in a few slides as well, but the way you structure your capability statement, the way you write, the way you communicate, how concise it is and straight to the point, that all reflects to the reader, which is the contracting officer, on if they would be interested in working with you or learning more about you. And then this document can also be used for networking purposes when you introduce yourself to agencies and potential clients, especially within the government sector. It's going to be very important for you to constantly be networking, reaching out to these agencies, attending events, expos, matchmakers, where you get to sit one-on-one with these agency representatives. And it's always good to have a capability statement on hand, and update it at all times, because you just never know who you're going to meet. Just like when you have like business cards and you always have those on hand, you want to do the same thing with a capability statement. And then aside from that, the capability statement sometimes might be required within government proposals. It might be one of the requirements that they ask for you to provide. Other times they might not ask for it, but it's always good to have it, because you never know who's going to ask for it and when they're going to ask for it. But it is, a document that everybody who is looking to get into the government sector should have.
So basically, we can think of the capability statement as almost like your calling card or your resume, right?
Exactly.
So can see, it should be on 1 page. Folks can see it at a glance what your business is all about. They can determine if they want to learn more, if you would be a good fit for them, things of that nature, right?
Right, exactly. It just serves like a resume. So, remember, like, think of like the contracting officers, like HR. You can kind of think of it like that, right? They're not gonna take 5 minutes to look at it. They're gonna take maybe 30 seconds, scan it, and you got to really try to capture their attention with everything that all the information you're putting in there. So yeah, it essentially works as a business resume, and they'll keep it on hand, just because they never know when they'll need, like, let's say you're a construction company, and they might not need construction services now, but maybe they'll need it in like 10 months from now. And then the contracting officer will remember, wait, I met this client, I have their capability statement. Let me look back, and if I see a fit, I'll reach out, you know.
That's excellent. And I do see that Kathy's asking, is there a template for this? And I know you're going to talk
That's
about
one of
that
our
in a
questions,
second.
right?
So,
Right.
yep.
Yeah. So that's one of the famous questions that I always get, and I'll talk about that in a few.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so the next question that I usually get is, what should be included in a KPI statement? Just like a resume, that you always have like your experience, what school you went to, or the jobs, the description of your role and all of that. With a KPI statement, it's pretty much similar. It's just different, sections that you'll be including. But basically, you include like an about us section. The about us section is, and do keep in mind, these sections that I have listed on the slide, I've seen it named or categorized different, like categorized with different names in different capability statements. So for example, like the past performance section might be called experience. But these are just the names of the sections that I've seen throughout most of the capability statements. So you can definitely tailor these names as much as you want, or as you prefer. So yeah, these are the sections. So we got the about us section, which briefly lets the reader know who you are, what value you bring to the table. The core competency section, which provides an overview of the company capabilities by outlining core expertise and skill sets as it relates to the targeted agency's needs. The differentiator section, which is just a concise and clear statement that allows potential customers to understand why they should choose you over your competitors. Of course, without saying or stating, I'm different from my competitors because of this, or you just want to go straight to the point. You don't want to add in that type of language where you're talking down on your competitors. Past performance, which outlines experience related to targeted agencies' needs that demonstrates you've done this kind of work in the past. And then company data, which includes your cage code from your SAM registration, which is a registration for the federal government, your unique entity identifier number, NAICS codes, and all these codes are codes that the government uses to categorize the different products or services that get sold to them. And as you get into the government sector, we can you'll be more familiar with each of these codes. But I'm not going to go too much into depth within this presentation for sure on that. But yeah, those are the codes that you can include in the company data, along with any certifications or licenses that you may have for your business, and then contact information, of course.
I have a question on past performance. So, of course, if a small business has experience in federal government, they can put that in past performance. But can they put contracting experience if it's state or local or private? Can they put that in their capability statement?
Yes, all past performance are valid. They're good to be used in a capability statement, whether that's local, state, or even private. A lot of the times there's a lot of people that might have done work with the private sector for 10 years and might have not worked with the government yet, and that's totally fine. You can definitely refer to the private experience that you had. And aside from that, you can also, let's say, for example, you started your business a year ago or 2 years ago, and you might not have too much experience, but you've had, let's say, 30 years in the industry prior to starting your business. You can refer to your personal experience as well, doing work with other companies, and I've seen this a lot with like IT companies where they are like the owners might be like 20 years in the industry, but then they recently started their business, and I always tell them, like, you might not have past performance with your business directly right now, but you can definitely refer to that 20-year of experience.
Of industry experience. That's good to know.
Exactly,
so as long as you have that industry experience, that's also something you can put on there too.
Exactly. Right.
That's very helpful.
Yeah, we usually encourage to try to include like at least two to four past performance examples. It don't got to be too detailed. Really, it just got to say maybe like the client that you worked with, what service that you provide. And then if you want, you can include like a brief description of what you did for them, like very brief. It don't got to be too in depth.
Excellent. Well, that's good to know. Thank you for that.
Right. Okay. Perfect. So then another thing that is also should also be included, as I mentioned earlier, is branding. So branding is also very important. Just in general with business, branding is important nowadays. As you see, social media, putting yourself out there, making sure people see your logo, making sure people know who you are is important. And this is the same with capability statements. You make sure that you use your colors throughout the capability statement. Try to have some sort of graphic design. Um, uh, if you would like, you don't have to have like graphic design. I've seen all different types of capability statements. I've seen one that doesn't have too much graphic design, and I've seen ones that do. But I mean, especially if you're like a marketing company or graphic design company, definitely try to have some sort of graphic designing, aspect to your capability statement, because it would make it seem more professional, and it would show the kind of work that you do. But yeah, so the reasons that branding is important is that the reason, especially with the logo, that's like one of the first things you want the contracting officer to see, because that they will have your name in mind or top of mind whenever they come across it or they see it. So the logo has to be very visible. This also allows you opportunity to show effort and professionalism within the capability statement. And it's also, your business identity, as I mentioned, to give the reader a sense of who you are and the services that you guys provide. So that's the second part about
So
the.
there is some truth to the fact that they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So like what you said, if you're in marketing, make sure there's something marketing related. If you're in IT,
Right.
make sure there's something IT related. So
Mm-hmm.
just at a glance, if your capability statement is laying on a table and somebody happens to glance by it, they can tell what that company is based on those images, right? And they'll pick it up and they'll learn more. So just always think
Right.
that, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Right, exactly, and that's a really good point. And to add on to that, the capability statement, as I mentioned earlier, is the opportunity to set yourself apart from your competitors. So the more professional and effort the more professional it looks, it might stick out to the contracting officer or the reader. When
Right.
maybe your competitor might not have like the graphic designing skills, or might not have put in as much effort. So
Right.
um, there's a good opportunity to just make yourself stand out. So with that said, I mean, everybody, always asks like what should be included. And the things that I just covered in the last two slides, or what should be included. But people then always ask if there is a template that can be used to create a KV statement. So I always get this question, and the actual answer and the only answer is no. There's not a specific template for it. I mean, you can Google thousands of templates just by typing in capability statement templates and see what's out there, so you can kind of like use it for your capability statement. But we usually we don't provide like capability statements to our clients or anybody, just because we encourage business owners to really try to be as unique as possible. Because if you gave everybody the same
Right.
capability statement template, everybody's would look the same. So yeah, we definitely encourage you just to Google capability statement templates, see what's out there, so you can get an idea, and just try to create your own, or try to go off any like free templates that they might have out there. So yeah, yeah, there's no to the question in the chat, there's no specific template for it.
Yeah, I mean, small business owners, you guys, take advantage of the fact that you can design this the way that you want to design it to represent your
Right.
company. So that's the
Right.
nice thing about it, right? You can make it as unique as you are, so folks can identify this, your capability statement with your company and the work that you do as soon as they see it.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, just be creative. Just be creative. And be open to like try to make it your own, really. Own it, as Victoria said. So
Yeah.
so yeah, so moving on to the next slide. So another question that I always get is there a template that can wait, sorry, I covered that. Can a business have more than one capability statement? And the answer is yes. We usually recommend or suggest to our clients to tailor their capability statements to whichever agencies that they're looking to network with, depending on the contract that they're looking after. It's just like a resume. When you're applying to a job, you have a resume. you tailor your resume by the company that you're applying to, or
Right.
by the job role that you're applying to. So it's the same thing with a capability statement. So we always encourage, have a general one, where it has everything that you want to possibly include, or whenever you go to an expo, you might be meeting different people, different agencies and stuff like that. Always have a general one. But then you can always have multiple on the side that are tailored to specific agencies that you're looking to work with. So we definitely recommend doing that.
And then now, how beneficial, like I always tell folks, sometimes when we're writing things up and we're creating things, it's always good to have somebody else take a look at it, someone who doesn't know about your business, to see if when they read it, they understand what your business is all about, right? And they can also look at it for proofreading and spelling errors and things of that nature. So how beneficial is that? Because I always find it a good practice to give it to someone who doesn't know too much about your business. If they read your capability statement and they understand that what you do, then that's great. If they have questions, that means that you have to go back and we rework it a little bit more so people can understand what you do, right?
Right. So you're saying you recommend like writing it down? That was a question, or
No,
what?
basically, how important is it to one, proofread, and
Proofread.
two, have someone else review it to
Oh,
make
gotcha.
sure that when
Yeah.
they read it, they understand what your business is all about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely is important to have a second set of eyes. And that's what we're at PTech. We're here to do. We're really here to be a second set of eyes. And there's like Victoria mentioned earlier. There's definitely like PTechs all over the nation. So you might have to just find the closest PTech to you. But I know in my experience, I'm always constantly reviewing capability statements for my clients, and proofreading for them. But I always recommend always have a second set of eyes, because there might be things that somebody else sees that you don't see.
Right.
Especially when you've been working on the document for like 5 hours straight, and it gets to a point where everything just looks the same and like nothing had changed.
It
So
happened to me. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, it happens to all of us. So definitely do that, because you want to minimize those little errors, because these contracting officers, you want to be as clear as possible with your capability statement. And it's just a representation of your writing skills. You're going to be emailing these contracting officers during the contract term, so they want to know that you know how to write as well, right? So
Yeah, that's a good
um
point.
yeah. And then to add on to tailoring to the capability statements, here I just have like listed a few bullet points of like different things that you can tailor as you like have different versions of the capability statement. So I mentioned that you should maybe only include like the products or services that the agency or prime vendor would most likely want to buy. So for example, if you're working with the Department of Design and Construction, and you know that they're looking to construct a bridge or something like that, you might want to include products or services directly related to what they're looking for that specific project. And then in terms of like NAICS codes, which I mentioned earlier, is how the government categorizes the products and services that get sold to them. Only include the NAICS codes that apply to the needs of the agency or the prime vendor at the time, because that's what they're most interested for. So if I'm an agency and you know that I'm looking for PPE masks and not hats or whatever, I'm just going to include NAICS codes for PPE masks for
Right.
now.
That's a
Um,
good tip.
and then only include certifications that make sense to share with the targeted agencies of the private vendors. So remember, there's 3 levels of government. There's a city, state, and local. I mean, city, state, and federal. Or sorry, I said city. The city, when I say city, I mean local, state, and federal.
Mhm.
And each of these have their own certifications that are recognized solely by those levels of government. So for example, I know with here like in New York City, and I'm pretty sure it's the same thing with like other states. They have like the Minority Women Business Enterprise certification at the city, and then they have a Minority Business Enterprise certification with the state. Um, the city certification is only recognized at the city, not at the state. So if you're reaching out to state agencies, you might want to just include the state MWE certification, not the city one, because those are two different ones and they're recognized different by each level of government. So keep that in mind, and then just demonstrate an understanding of the agencies, prime vendors, missions, and value. Make sure that you do your research on these agencies. Most of them have their own websites. If you Google doing business with Department of Justice, doing business with Department of Design and Construction, they have their own websites where they talk about their contracting goals, or the kinds of services that they might be interested in looking for. Sometimes they have bidders lists and stuff like that that you can join. But just get familiar with their website and what it is that they do. Do they focus on childcare? Do they focus on the youth? Do they focus on correctional facilities? What it is, and that way you can tailor your community statement towards the agency.
Anil, can you tell folks, because I know why it's really important, but I just want to reiterate why putting your certifications on there is important. And if you're not certified and you can get certified, why you should do that. So why should folks get certified, and why is it important for them to put their certifications on their capability statement?
Right. So the certifications, if you're eligible for there's many different ones that they have different eligibility requirements and stuff like that. But we always recommend to go after the certifications if possible, because it doesn't, most of them don't guarantee. Well, I guess all of them. Yeah. They don't guarantee work. So they don't guarantee work, but they put you in a better position to go after a contract or a subcontract, depending on the goals of these agencies. A lot of the times these agencies have subcontracting goals. So for example, with like an MWE certification, they'll have like a subcontracting goal where they're trying to hire out or they're encouraging their prime vendors who win contracts with the agencies to subcontract to these businesses who are certified. So that, subcontracts is a great way to get your foot in the door when you're first getting started in government contracting. And then on top of that, a lot of these agencies want to work with the certified firms because they have their own goals for the year, whether that's, there's a certain amount of veteran businesses that they want to work with, or there's a certain amount of MWE businesses that they want to work with for the year. So they have these goals that they do want to meet, and they're encouraged are motivated to work with these firms.
Mm-hmm. So that's, and the way I like to look at it is that if you're not certified, you are going to be competing against all these people. But all of a sudden, if you're woman owned, then that competition pool gets smaller, which is good because you get a higher likely that you're going to get your contract. If you're woman owned and you're a veteran, they have veteran owned certifications too. So your competition pool gets smaller. So the smaller your competition pool goes, the higher your chances are of getting a contract. So just think about it that way. And if folks want to learn more about certifications, we will be having events and webinars regarding this. We've had them in the past, so you can check out our government contracting group, or you can check our events page regarding that. But certification, I know it's a great topic. So So you might see us and PTAC again talking about that in the future. So sorry about that, Anya. I just wanted to let folks know how important certifications are.
No, and it's super important. So that's a great point. And to your second question of why is it important to include it in the carry statement is like, like I said, it's just the agencies are willing to work with those businesses, are looking forward to working with those businesses who are certified. So I don't know if I touched on that second question, so I just want to make sure I answered that.
Good. No, thank you.
Okay, perfect. And then the last question that I usually get from my clients or businesses is, when will vendors be requested to provide a capability statement? So when will you be using it? It all depends. Sometimes they might ask you to provide it as part of your proposal, as I mentioned earlier, or upload it during the registration process. In other cases, if you're reaching out to contracting officers directly to network with them, sometimes they might ask you for the capability statement. If you email a contracting officer, let them know who you are. They might be like, okay, it was nice talking to you. Can you provide me with your capability statement? So you just got to have it ready, because you just never know when they might ask for it. But regardless, it's always good to have this document on hand and updated at all times. And here I just have, some tips and advice on things to make sure you do prior to sharing your capability statement. So just make sure all the information is correct, your certifications, your NAICS codes, your websites. If there's certifications that expire, because most of them do expire by a certain time, make sure that they're renewed and stuff like that, so that you can include it in your capability statement. Your website, make sure that your website is updated if you're going to include a website, because if you're sharing it as a PDF document, people can click through to your website directly. So you just want to make sure all your information on your website is correct and updated. And then another thing to keep in mind is that when you are reaching out to these agencies, representatives, or contracting officer, you introduce yourself first before just sending them your capability statement. And then, once you have a conversation with them, just ask them if it's okay for you to share with your capability statement with them, just as a courtesy. And then last but not least, convert the documents of PDF format. You don't want to send it in a Word document, so that, no changes are made by anybody else. And then just make sure that you feel good about it and feel comfortable about it enough to share with people who might put you in a position to win a contract. So but yeah, that's my last piece of advice. Just feel good about it. But that was all that I had today. I don't know, Victoria, if you have any other questions before I
We
proceed
do
to
have some questions.
okay.
Let me go through the questions real quick here. So we have and I don't know if you want to flip back to the slide or not.
Yeah, I'll flip back. Yep.
We have from Anonymous. It says, since the SAM.gov changed to UEI, do you recommend adding both the DUNS and UEI on your capability statement, or just the UEI? What do you think?
Yes. So the DUNS number, since it's no longer supported by SAM, we started telling people that they no longer need to include it in the capability statement, and just use the UEI number, because that's what the federal government is going to start using to look at or find the businesses on their SAM portal. So you no longer need the DUNS number, but if you want to keep it on there for a few upcoming, because they're still transitioning. It's not like they're fully transitioned. They're still in the process of transitioning into the UEI number. You can keep it on there, but you can definitely take it off if you want. That's what we've been telling people to do.
That's good. And so another anonymous person wrote, would you please elaborate on examples of differentiators?
Yes. So yeah. So I guess to give you like a vision, I guess an example would be, let's say if I'm a construction company, right? You can just write like a statement saying like, try to really tie back into your core competency section, right? Because each section you want to like build off your previous section, and just go a little bit more in depth. So just talk about like what it is about how you provide your services that makes you different from your competitors, right? If you see that if you provide, let's say, customer service skills, how do you provide, like, what it is about how you provide it that you feel makes you stand out. So try to really think about the how of how you provide your services, of how you do things, that makes you stand out from your competitors, and really try to implement that into the differentiator section, so that way you can kind of talk more about the like 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 I said, like how you do it. That's really what they want to know, because remember, a lot your competitors are gonna also say the same, that you guys all provide the same services, right? Your competitors, but what makes you guys different is how you provide it.
Your past
your
performance.
past performance, exactly, stuff like that. So that all ties into the differentiator section, and
Like
it don't gotta be like it don't gotta be like a long paragraph. It's gonna be like 3 to 4 sentences.
Yeah, it's basically what makes you unique, right? What
Right.
is it that you're being able to bring to them that others may not have? So just
Right.
it gives you the opportunity to kind of talk about your uniqueness.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Anil. I do have another one here from Anonymous. They
Mm-hmm.
say most capability statement examples I've seen are 2 pages or more, but you mentioned it is preferably should be 1 page. Do you recommend keeping it short as opposed to including all the information or adding everything, even if it's 2 pages or more?
Yeah, I've seen capability statements that have been more than 1 page as well. Like I said, it's preferably 1 page long. Just like a resume, resumes can be more than 1 page, but people would prefer just 1 page, especially like the people reading these resumes or capability statements. So it's really all depends. If you feel like if you feel like 1 page is not enough to cover all your past performance and stuff like that, then you might have to go on to another page. But we usually recommend staying on 1 page, because remember, a lot of the times these contracting officers have 5 30 other capability statements at a time that people send to them, and they're not going to have time to look through all of them at once or look through multiple
Yes.
pages. So
Yeah, contracting officers are super busy.
yeah,
Just think they're getting, proposals and, bids and emails from all over the nation or depending where they're at.
right,
But yeah, I would say to do what try to do it in one page and put the most important information there on that one page. Because if they want to learn more, they will connect with you. And then that gives you the opportunity to build that relationship with them. Whereas
right,
put everything in 2 or 3 pages, they may not connect with you. And so you miss out on creating that relationship. And as we
right.
all know, networking and relationships are very important in business. So just something to think about.
Yeah, yeah. And to add on to that, like a piece of advice that I usually recommend is like whenever you're writing the capability statement, try to think, everything that you write down, every section you include, is this is this needed? Does this add value to what the picture that I'm trying to paint for the contracting officer? So for everything you put in there, each sentence as you're reading through it, just ask yourself, does this add value to the picture that I'm trying to paint for this contracting officer or the reader,
Yeah,
whoever it
that's
may
a
be?
great tip. That's a great, great tip. Excellent. So we have someone by the name of Daryl Kahn. Daryl is asking, as a Canadian business, are these contracts available? Are there any differentiations criteria required? So I'm going to answer this. So Daryl, right now, we're talking about U.S. federal government. Now we are looking to start a series with the Canadian government as well, so we can provide information to Canadian businesses on how to do federal contracting in their location. So the information that was shared with you today is for those that are US based small businesses. But be on the lookout. We are creating a relationship with the Canadian
Right.
business office. So be on the lookout for that. Excellent. So I do have another one who's anonymous. They're asking, do you recommend adding the phrase capability statement to the actual document or should you leave it off?
Yeah, most of the times they include it says capability statement at the top. It's all up to it's all up to preference really. Most of the ones that I look at, they usually say capability statement at the top.
Excellent. And what are the popular softwares to develop a capability statement, such as Word or PowerPoint? This is from Alexander Ortiz.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's all up to preference really, because since we don't like really like do the capability statements with people, I don't have too much knowledge on actually doing it for people. I just like provide
Mhm.
feedback, so I don't know how they do it. But I think I've seen people do it through Word. I'm sure like you can also do it through Publisher. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Publisher, but that is a website you can application you can use to make like flyers and stuff like that, which is you can use it for capability statements as well. Um, but there's definitely different applications you can use out there. What I do, another thing that we do sometimes recommend is like if you do have issues or not like experience with like the graphic designing aspect of it and stuff like that, try to find somebody who is able to do it for you. And just you probably just have to provide them obviously with like what you want to include in it, but you might have to find somebody who's good at graphic designing to help you with the capability statement and to make it look professional and stuff like that. But if you feel like there's not like a need to make it look like graphic designing and stuff like that, you can you don't have to do all of that. So it's all up to preference, but we always recommend looking for somebody who can help with that.
Perfect. And if we can stop sharing now so we can go side by side, we have about 15, well, a little less than 15 minutes left to go through the rest of these questions.
Okay.
Let's see. Jesse Garcia is asking, how do I get started? Do I start with a website? Do I start with the capability statement? So in general, what's the best way that they can get started?
With the capability statement, you said, or just in government contracting in general.
Well, they didn't really
They
specify.
didn't
So
specify.
I'm assuming it's with the capability statement. So, for example, I've seen some websites that the capability statement is on the website. Is that
Right.
something that would be smart for them to do to kind of
Yeah,
have the website laid out with the same information that's on the capability statement?
yeah, I've seen that as well, where they have their capability statement on there, and that's totally fine. Just make sure, like I said, it's updated. The only issue I would see is that, like with doing that is that if you're gonna upload your capability statement on your website, you just gotta make sure you're constantly updating it because, like I mentioned before, this is gonna be a living document. So as you go, you're gonna be constantly updating it. So that might be like the only issue. I don't know, if
Ex-
it'll be like an issue to constantly update the website, but just something to think about.
Yeah, excellent. So we have another anonymous person asking, if you are a new company that is getting into government contracting, do you recommend adding background on the owner and CEO? And this kind of talks about what you mentioned earlier, Neil, about a person having industry experience. Should
Mhm.
they be including that in a capability statement?
Yes, definitely. So usually what we even recommend, so on top of just including their personal past performance before starting the company, they can even include combined years of experience of the leadership of the business. So for example, if it's two co-owners of a business and each of them has 15 years of industry experience, you can say something like in the about us section or somewhere in the capability statement, like, combined our leadership has like 30 years of experience because 15 plus 15 equals 30. So you can combine those years and use that to kind of like, that catches the eyes of the people when you combine those numbers. So yeah, I've seen people
Right.
combine 20 and 30 years of experience saying like they have 50, and that's totally fine. Because it's not like you're lying to them, and your combined experience is 50 years. That's what it is. But we definitely recommend, adding in personal experience for both owners if you want, as well.
That's excellent. And that's a great tip
Mhm.
about combining the years of experiences.
Right.
I have another one here from Anonymous. They're saying for NACE codes, do you recommend adding the numbers only or including the number and the description? That's a good question.
Yes, that's a question that I always get. So um, we usually tell people they don't have to include the name of it, the name of the NAICS codes, and the reason is because a lot of the times the people that are that you probably be sending it to, they already know like the name of the NAICS codes because that's probably like a service that they're looking for already. But a lot of the times people do include it, and that's totally fine as well. It's just it's really, it all depends on, if you need some extra space for some reason, or whatever. But it's not required to include it. It's not required.
Oh, perfect. So it's not required, but they can if they need to.
Right. Or if they prefer, yeah.
Got it. Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
So it's up to them. So I have Vanessa Harrell who's asking, since this is being recorded, will we have access to the recording later to view it? And so the answer is yes. You guys will have access. You will be able to view it. Unfortunately, PTAC is not available to send you the slides, but if you review it and you look at the presentation afterwards, you have all the information there. Excellent. So thank you for that. And I have another person who's anonymous who's asking, is it worth sending a capability statement to the contact on an RFP or bid before submitting a bid?
So that's a good question. So usually if you're gonna, so I guess this is what I'm understanding from the question. So they're asking if it's okay to send the capability statement before submitting the bid. Before
Correct.
submitting. Okay, got it. Okay, so usually I've never seen like, or I've heard of like people doing that. If there's like a solicitation or a proposal that you have to put together, you're probably gonna have to spend time doing that. But what is, I think, totally fine is like, let's say if you're doing research on agencies that is looking for your products or services, and there might not be a proposal out there yet, you can reach out to the contracting officers for sure and network with them, and introduce yourself and send them your capability statement. So for example, let's say if you find out like the department of, if you're a construction company, you find out like the Department of Justice is for some reason looking for construction services, or maybe they're not currently looking for construction services, but based on their data, there's different websites that you can use to search for these kinds of information. But let's say you find out that the Department of Justice spends millions of dollars on construction services throughout the year, right? That might be one of your target agencies, right? Because you know that there's a lot of opportunities there. So you might want to reach out to one of their contracting officers, introduce yourself, and send them your capability statement, without there having to be like a proposal or anything out there yet. But in terms of like, if there is a proposal out there, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would recommend it, just for the reason that like might as well just submit they're going to get a sense of who you are through the proposal anyways,
Right.
so yeah, I would just wait till you submit the proposal, but I've never heard of like people sending their capability statements before submitting a proposal.
Excellent.
Mhm.
So I think that, let me check here. So that's it for questions for right now. If you guys do have questions, we have about another 10 minutes here with Aniel, so make sure to put the questions in there. But Aniel, in the meantime, I want to put you on the spot a little bit.
Yes.
What are the top, let's see, 3 to 5 tips that you can give our audience members when it comes to capability statements?
Yeah. So, well, one tip is gonna be, let's see. That's a good question though. That's a good question because I gotta think.
Now you got to think
But there's a
everything we learned today. What are the top 3 to 5
yeah.
things that people should remember?
hmm So I think tailoring your capability statement being important. So that's one tip to as you start, using your capability statement, make sure you tailor it as you go, because it's just like a resume. Like I said, like you're gonna be using the capability statement has to be applicable or of interest to the agency that you're trying to connect with, and that's how you're gonna catch their eye, right? So that's one tip. Make sure that you tailor your capability statement if possible. Another tip is to have a second set of eyes read through it, because a lot of the times there are people, I mean, a lot of times we especially when we're working on something for too long, just in general in life, if you're working on something for 5 hours, there are things that you might not see, there are things that you might not see that somebody else might. So it's always good to have a second set of fresh eyes look through it, and make sure that you minimize those little errors, grammatical errors and stuff like that, because remember, your capability statement is a representation of how you communicate and who you are. So, and then the third tip I would say is, just be just try to make sure that everything that's on the capability statement is of value. That it has value, that it adds to the story, right? So, you guys might hear, like in branding, whenever you're trying to brand a company or something, you're trying to create like this picture for the audience. What
Mhm.
feel do they get when they look at the logo and stuff like. It's the same thing with the capability statement. Make sure that everything included in the capability statement adds value, to each section. So usually with the about us section, the core competency section, make sure that you don't get too specific in each section to the point that you can't add on in the
Right.
next section. So just like, little by little, give them all the information, and think of it as a story from beginning to end. The about us section is obviously not going to go in the last section. So yeah, but you kind of like break down everything about yourself through these different sections, and make sure that
Right.
each sentence, a lot of times people include extra sentences and extra words, that can be taken out. But just try to read through it, and just as you're reading through it, ask yourself, is this of value? Is this adding to the picture that I'm trying to create for
That's
the
excellent.
reader?
That's a great point. It's almost like when you're meeting someone for the first time, you don't want to tell them everything in one sentence,
Right,
right?
exactly.
You want to tell them little by little,
Little by
get
little.
pique their interest, getting them wanting to learn more about you, wanting to learn more about your business, so they're going to continue reading in your capability statement. So make sure to put
Exactly.
the most important thing on top.
Right, exactly.
Anya, we have a few other questions that have come in. Justin Orive is asking, can the government hire an orthopedic practice or doctor through a contract?
So I think I can't answer that question too much from like the top of my head,
Mhm.
but well, what I do recommend is, if those are the services that you provide, you can try and do some market research to see if there's a need for those kinds of services in the government. I mean, the government does buy like everything from toilet paper to all these different types of services. So and sometimes they might not need it now. Maybe they need it once a year, once every 2 or 3 years. So you never know when they need these services. But a way to kind of like look at the market research, or kind of see what agencies are buying, what products or services they're buying and how often they're buying it. You can use like websites like USA Spending, which is a website that shows like all federal government spending. And there's different ones for the city and the state as well. But basically, there's these market research websites where you can see this agency is spending this amount of money on construction,
Right.
on clothing, on uniforms and stuff like that. Like you can see all that information on there because that's all public information, and you can use that information to kind of guide you and help you decide if government contracting is right for you, and if you see a need for it for your services.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you guys are looking to see, where do I go to find all this information to do market research? You can go to the government contracting group on Alignable. The links on the chat, because on the right hand side, I have all those links for you. So you can just go in there and do your market research and see if the government is looking for what you have. Now, don't get discouraged if you think that the need isn't there right now. Like Anil said, it could be there in the future. Also, keep in mind, you can do private contracting, you can do local contracting with your city, you can do state contracting with your state and still build that experience, right, Anil?
Right. Yeah, and that's a good point. So I want to add on to that. Sometimes there are businesses that they literally don't find nothing in the government sector, or like enough opportunities for them to focus all their energy on government contracting. Government contracting can be a very lengthy process. A lot of paperwork involved and stuff like that. So there's people that have decided, I realize like government contracting is not for me. I don't see like a lot of opportunities for me out there. The government seems like they don't look for these kinds of services consistently. So they rather just focus on the private sector where they know that there's a need for their services or products more consistently throughout the years and stuff like that. So that's totally fine if you realize like if you realize that government contracting is not for you, or there's not enough demand for your services on there, then it might be best for your business to focus on private sector as well.
Excellent. And I do have another question from Anonymous. Says, can the government hire for construction permitting directly?
Permitting, construction permitting. I'm not too familiar with. Is that like a
when they have to go to certain cities or municipalities to get certain permits in order to be able to construct? So, for example, if you're in Kentucky and you're doing an air base, a U.S. air base there, would the federal government hire a company to run their permits and get that processed in the city in order for them to be able to build there?
That's a good question. I'm not too sure if the answer for that. I don't know if one of my team members, maybe Richard Nelson, might have more of a say on that. I'm not too familiar with that.
Yeah. Well, what I would recommend. I'm sorry. Well, what I was and Richard, you can certainly join in a second. What I was going to recommend is this is where that market research comes in handy, right?
Right.
So again, I'm going to put the links on here for you guys to join the government contracting group. This is a group that we run, and on the right hand side, it's going to have all of the links of the locations that you can go to see if the government is actually purchasing what you're selling, whether they're services or whether they're products. So I'm going to put this information and Richard, I didn't know if you wanted to add to that. So Richard Mullings, everybody, he's providing support for us. He is is it the deputy or the assistant director for P-Tech LaGuardia?
Yes, thank you, Victoria. That's right. Associate director, assistant director. Yes. So in regards to permits, typically government works with prime contractors. That's the one that's directly has a contract with the government agency. So they are able to get those permits for any construction related projects.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Let's see if we have any other questions. We do have one question from Anonymous, and I think we've already answered this. They were just wanting to see how can they identify potential government contract work. So I think we've already mentioned that about doing your market research. So excellent. Thank you so much. So Anel, again, top 3 is to
Taylor. Ask yourself if everything you have on your capability statement is of value when you revise, and have a second set of eyes looking at your capability statement before you start sharing it with prime vendors or government agencies.
And if I may add, Victoria, to Eniel, if you can go back to that slide where it has all the items, Eniel, those are things that are very important to have on a capability statement. The differentiators, the initial slide.
Perfect. So while Anel is doing that, we do have about 2 minutes left. And
that's it. So, yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Okay, perfect.
So you guys will have all this information. These are the things that are very important for you to have on your capability statements. Remember, you can rename them differently, so it doesn't have to be named exactly the way this is, but these are typically the things that the contractors look for when it comes to federal contracting. So
Right.
So just, keep in mind, you have this information. You will be getting a recording afterward, so no worries about writing everything down. And you are going to get all the links that were shared afterwards as well. So excellent. Thank you so much for that. And Anil, thank you again for participating with us today. It has been so wonderful. We've had so much information here, a lot of great questions. It's been such a pleasure having you and Richard with us today. So thank you.
Right. Yes, thank you, Victoria. I just want to say thank you all to you all for tuning in today, and for allowing me to give you a workshop and a run through of capability statements. I just want to reiterate, like, if you are a New York State based firm or an out of state firm looking to do work with New York State, feel free to contact us via the Alignable chat, LaGuardia PTech, and we'll be more than happy to assist you through there as well, or reach out to us. Mm-hmm.
That's excellent. What I was going to say is you guys have the links there to join either the contracting group, or I'm leading that group. You can also join the PTAC group if you're located in the greater New York area, in Westchester County and in the LaGuardia County, or if you're interested in doing business in those counties, you can also join those groups, or you can join both. I mean, it's a great way to stay in contact with us. So I highly recommend that. And again, to our members, thank you so much for attending this event. We do hope that you take advantage of the wonderful resources and recommendations that were shared with you today. And again, remember, we are here to support you in your government contracting journey. You can always find us on Alignable. If you do want to see any past events that we've done or any future events so you can register, please check out our events page. The link is on the chat as well, and you can register directly from there. Again, thank you all for joining. Anil, Richard, thank you for being with us today. And to our audience members, thank you for joining. I wish everyone a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. Till next time, take care, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
You're welcome.